Mad military men reporting in.
She stole it. She totally stole it from you.
Hello, America. Welcome back to another episode of the Bickering Gamers. Today's topic are retro games, such as Tapper and Cubert. This is Med Military Men reporting in.
You want to say
I
it?
had the vintage VGAD reporting.
Hello, America!
Yeah, there you go.
I'm big. No, that was.
All right, so what?
Yeah. Now we're anyway. Let's talk about today's topic.
All right, we're gonna take
Did
you
you
back
have
to a
to
time
No, I definitely
where you bring a shit ton of quarters.
You know, when I was your age, we didn't have none of these
here we go.
iPads and none of these Game Boys. Well, actually, we did have Game Boys, but we didn't have none of these Nintendo Wii's and the Woos and the Woks and the Where's and the. We had a shit full of coins in the pockets, and the people would look at us and like, what the hell is that bulge in your pants? Show some decency.
There was no ones, the 360s, or 78, or 10s, or 20s. There was a 2600.
Yeah, there was a 2600. But then you go to the arcade, like at the movie theaters.
I had the original Parker Brothers game.
Oh, hang on. What did you say, Jimmy? Sorry.
I said, I just lost a freaking train of thought. Okay.
What are you talking about? High scores?
I said, you go to the arcade.
Yeah, you go to.
Machine, you try to get the high score, you try to finish the game, try to get the last boss. That's all you did.
Yeah, pretty much. But that was.
And
the...
then we had to put the coin
No,
in the
we're
slot.
not doing this whole episode as Bill Cosby.
Hey, come on. Hey, listen, Bill Cosby's cool, but I don't need to.
But what was I saying?
No, Ghost Dad. Yeah, but you put the coin in the little big
See, there's a
video
reason
box.
why there's a reason why parachute pants were popular in the 80s.
Yeah.
It wasn't for fashion. It was for the function.
Yeah.
Pay for every pocket with quarters.
Yeah.
The thing was, back then, you know that we have achievements today. They really mean nothing but bragging rights. Back then, that meant something. When you, it's like what Jimmy said. When you fought for that high score and your name, your 3-letter name was up there, everyone said ass.
Yeah.
There was like, look at you, Chelsea. How the
I
heck
put 7.
points in the game?
Yeah, that was the shit, man. And you had games, you had these classic games that every arcade cabinet wanted.
like Tappers.
Yeah, I love Tapper.
Cubert.
Cubert was the shit.
I had the one that you put that handheld that you have that's so big you have to keep it on the table.
Oh yeah.
I
Don't
had that
forget
when I was
Donkey
little.
Kong.
Yes, Donkey Kong.
It's $100.
Street Fighter.
Donkey Kong revolutionized the market.
And Street Fighter.
Yes. Mortal Kombat was a big deal.
Yeah, that was a big old retro games. You know.
Dragon looks like
Hey,
we had one arcade here, but slowly but surely they all died down.
Yeah, I know.
They like in some parts of the country it's so popular. In Japan, that is where they're highly popular. Arcades are much more popular in Japan.
Still has the best arcades out there. Got the most recent games, but they don't have enough arcades.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And most of them are actually arcade based, like the 40s, the PS3.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in today's world, in our country here at least, arcades have died down very drastically. The only arcades you'll ever see are in theme parks or the occasional really fancy mall. Or they'll have like theaters.
There's a huge. There was a huge video game arcade down in Tennessee in Pigeon Forge.
I'm sure
It is huge.
Yeah, the southern states have, since there's less recreational things around there,
And it's better down there.
they tend to have more stuff like arcades and. Like once in a while, we will see an arcade machine.
Yeah.
Like there's this Buffalo Wild Wings that just opened. For those who don't know, the name says it all. By where we live, and when you went into the building, there was a Miss Pac-Man machine that blew my mind.
Yeah,
you don't see. It's really other than movie theaters and amusement parks. It's really rare when you see an arcade.
Well,
and even then, a lot of them suck these days.
Let's actually talk about the original arcade, like Cubert. Like,
Cubert was
Baby
a tough
Butterfly has something to say about Cubert, but I actually liked Cubert. He had
Oh, she's so excited. Why don't you come over and talk about it, Steph?
So, let's see.
Aw.
First on the agenda is Cubert.
All right.
Now,
We're going to talk about the big... We'll talk about the big boys.
Fill all the boxes without pencil.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was really annoying, and Kubert liked to curse.
Yeah, Kubert did like to curse. Yeah, he was a cursor. Now, what do you have to say about it?
Kubert was
Hang
my
on a
very
second.
first video
I love
game.
how you fucking just go, no, what do you have to say about it?
Kubert was my very first video game, actually. I had, like, the original vintage from the Parker Brothers. That big one they claimed was a handheld, but you gotta, like, leave it on the table to, like, actually use it.
Welcome to early pioneering of video game technology.
Yep.
I like how they could take the simplest things and make it into an actual game. They just take basic geometric shapes and turn it into a video game. Just stacks of boxes and go down.
Game was unplugged. Will work for cherries.
Yeah, and all you needed was like one bad guy and a good guy back then. You don't need like a whole army.
Poor Kubert.
Speaking of which, another one was another famous old arcade game was Tappers. Remember?
Tapper, I love Tapper. I used to have the NES version of that game. I played the hell out of that when I was a kid. My dad, that was one of the earliest memories with my dad, actually. Because my dad was good at Tapper.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is, it's just simple. It's just back in the day. All you had to do. Yeah, you're going up and down, throwing quote unquote. I'm doing the air quotes. Root beer to customers and push them out these long shelves. And if they reach the end of the counter, you lose or you take a hit depending on the version. I love Tapper.
I like Tapper.
Tapper was fun.
And they had the "Come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee." That was his theme.
That was his theme song. Yeah.
Yeah,
and because it was an old southern. It was supposed to be an old cowboy southern tab.
Yeah,
throwing those root beers around at the guys.
Root. That's the root of the ball right there.
And to make it hard, you also had to not only to add more people, but they're clever enough to add empty glasses for you have to grab before it falls off the counter.
Root beer is disgusting.
Root beer is the best.
It's disgusting.
All right.
Wait.
So
Did I just hear someone say root beer?
I know.
Get the fuck out.
Okay. Let's write a list.
Wait.
Tangents. Let's see. Tasmanian devils. Chicks digging the turtles, even though that was kind of related.
Yeah.
And now we have
root beer sucks. ...
That is a complete lie. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Oh, look.
And while they have that conversation up there, so there were a lot of big boys in arcade. Let's get this one out of the way. Motherfucking Pac-Man.
Yeah, I know.
I know we had a whole episode about this, so we won't go into too much detail. But
we already did Pac-Man.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We won't go into so much detail, but Pac-Man.
Does anyone want to join us?
Was a big deal.
I said
Hang on a
something. I
sec.
really
Jimmy
did.
is talking. Let him speak.
Okay, I was saying, Tetris was also a classic that was found.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Tetris.
Again, another simple geometric shape.
And the top scoring.
Well, you know the name Tetris means four. Because
Yeah.
all shapes are squares, having
Greek number.
4 sides.
The Greek word for 4.
Basic geometric shape.
But that Tetris, funny it brings it up. It actually has a very clever. It really showed how clever arcade machines can be. Like they can be a little monotonous, like have a button for literally every movement, which is actually something I'm not very fond of. That's why I don't like keyboard controls.
Yeah.
Every key does an individual, even the smallest of tasks.
Yeah, I know.
But like Tetris, they had some clever ones. Like Tetris and pole position were one of those, where instead of pressing a button instead of moving the joystick to turn, you actually rotate the joystick itself. You're not moving it left to right, the whole thing. You're taking the joystick itself and rotating it left and right in order to move. And that was where Atari. Yeah, like I experienced that a few. Right, I experienced that a few times. Yeah, I loved I loved when arcade machines got clever like that. They would take their own ideas, and then the famous steering wheel racing games came along. I was waiting. Yes, that's what I was waiting for. Someone to say that. Turbo-tastic.
Turbo-tastic.
And to this day, the gun rail shooters arcade machines are very popular.
Yeah.
You take the little plastic gun with a very uncomfortable restraining chained wire at the back, so you can't steal it. Of course, why steal that shit? What are you going to use it for?
Yeah.
But then again, if a good thief would steal my turd if I left it floating in the toilet.
Yeah.
Speaking of toilets, no, I can't think of any arcade games yet. I think actually Wario has a few games, but that's another story with the toilet.
Yeah. You know, I just think that like the retro games are where it's at. You know, I mean,
it's an art form. It's a different art form.
I mean, this is like totally retrospectro. You know what I'm saying?
It's a different art form. Exactly, absolutely. And you know, it's like I kind of touched on this in our last video with I was saying if consoles die, there goes the gaming industry because no one will be creative with video games ever again. But I like that was something. Unfortunately, it's not. It didn't end up being true. But they said the same thing with arcades. They said once arcades die, the industry's dead. But what stopped that from being true is the fact that consoles and PCs got more advanced and could match. That was a big thing for years. It was hard to match the power of an arcade machine with a console. And that was a challenge that people were trying to do since the 2600. And like I said in the Pac-Man video a few videos ago, the guy who did the port for Pac-Man game got a lot of negative reactions from the actual home version.
Did he now?
And that, like I was saying, there was always a reason why I wondered everyone loved Miss Pac-Man over Pac-Man. Because I said, you know what, I know Miss Pac-Man's cool, but it's the same game. But then I realized once I played the 2600 versions, no, it's not. Oh my God, no, it's not. The Miss Pac-Man is far superior. And yeah, everyone's having fun. If only. That's all right. We're used to it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't. Oh no! What you should have said was, really, I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
One arcade, I guarantee this is not black. Remember, I mentioned it one like the classic in-store arcade game. It was the rage, one of those games, nightmares.
Yeah.
Rage. So giving one check, you get a teacher as gun, and it gets formed by enemies all over the place. And then you get that giant face, you still out, trying to kill you, and only revive, and only to kill the space station, you can mine asteroids, collect the two is pretty common. But the problem is, the skills are about the same size as the gun, and you never see them. The second problem is, then they come in and they take it, and then you lose. Well, that I can imagine how many people actually broke control and lost at the very last stage.
Yeah, you gotta love that shit.
Yep.
But
So I'm curious, there's one guy that still has gameplay on YouTube.
yeah, I gotta check that out later.
You know,
I'll link it to you, Billy. I have I'm subscribed to this account. I think 60 plus something like that. Gameplay.
What the hell, man?
Tyler?
No.
fart.
Jimmy blamed that on Tyler. He's on the other side of the room. That would still sound like that if I was on the other side of the room.
Oh boy.
You know, I'm sure a lot of people are trying to imagine these games if the ones that never experienced it, and they're probably imagining like what NES games looked like.
Yeah.
But no, trust me, it was way beyond that. I actually saw someone once rebuild an arcade machine. It was actually pretty impressive. But that thing had several hard drives on it. It had tons and tons of wiring to it. It was a very complicated machine because we didn't have very sophisticated computers back then. So you have to think of it this way: an arcade machine looked like in its earliest forms a 32-bit console, and it was really impressive. Because since we didn't have Mac computers or Windows or anything fancy like that on one hard drive only, they took tons and tons of computer processing and memory to make one arcade machine. And if anyone ever wants to watch it on YouTube, I recommend it.
You know what was a good art? Do you remember? Well, it's not really retro, but it was a rebirth of retro.
Oh, that's all right.
The Atari Flashback.
Oh, what was that? Oh, is that one of those TV plug and plays?
Yeah.
Those got really popular a
Yeah.
few years ago. Like, I think the point of that was supposed to be to revive arcade classics.
Yeah.
I had a Namco, an Atari, and a Konami
I had
one I really liked.
the Atari. Oh my, which one? There was like the ping pong game. There was the Centipede game. Remember?
Centipede,
Yeah.
that's a classic. Everyone loves
Yeah.
Centipede. That's another one.
Centipede game.
That was one they put the quarters in.
Yeah. Do you remember? You know what else was also good? Remember Asteroids?
Asteroid, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Atari was the kings of the arcade machines at the time. At the beginning, Sega made a big impact with arcade machines too.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them flopped, but they made the machines mostly. But when they made a hit, they made a hit. That was
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm gonna go get my cup.
And then getting into the console market was a hairy situation for them. But then
Yeah.
16 bits.
Yep.
The Sega does when Nintendo don't. Yeah, you know that shit. We all know that shit. They're
Sega
making
does-
a book and a movie about that. You know.
Sega does what Nintendo don't.
That was their slogan back when that was the first ever console war between Nintendo and Sega, the
Who do
Sega
you
Genesis.
think rightfully won?
Nintendo.
Of course.
You can't deny that. They're still
They're still the kings.
I mean, I love both set. I'm a big fan of both of them, but it's just obvious.
Sega.
You gotta put more soprano in.
Sega.
Yeah.
I bet you my baritone and your soprano.
Yeah, it was exactly-
It's gonna sound exactly good on that video.
I can't wait to hear this back now.
I know. I know. So, anyway.
He's cooking in the middle of our video.
You want me to get it?
Speaking of cooking, it wasn't. I can't do a tangent to make up an arcade game with it.
Well, actually, were there any cooking arcade games?
I doubt it. If it is, it'll be really monotonous and stupid.
Did they have a game now to help you quit smoking for the DS?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Coming from the makers of Nintendogs and fucking
They
Cooking
just
Cooking Mama.
Yeah.
Hey,
No.
and that's a good market for children these days.
Yeah, I
Because they
know.
like playing stupid games.
No, Cooking Mama's pretty
So
cool.
they kind of did that as a marketable thing.
They
I
need to
think.
make Nintendo Dragons where you could raise your own dragon.
that'd be
from
cool.
egg.
All right,
I told you.
dear
See,
Nintendo,
nobody
Yeah.
listens.
take note of this moment. You're not watching
Nintendo
this.
Dragons. Who doesn't like? a
I'm
baby
not watching.
dragon?
Hell, I'm not watching this.
But they have to grow into an adult and you can ride them or something. Some
Yeah,
crap
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Hi, I'm Triple N. You may remember me from such YouTube hits
Oh,
as
God.
the Bickering Gamers.
Oh God, no.
In case you hadn't noticed, that was a Simpsons reference.
Hi, I'm Troy. I was gonna say, hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from some references you haven't heard, as in The Simpsons, the other Simpsons, and the other Simpsons, all of which I cameoed in. There was though in that episode where I had to take off my glasses to see Selma's hut, so I can go out with her to get a part in a movie.
You know, you know what was actually? I think
The Simpsons arcade game. Oh my God, I did it. Changed it into an arcade
Yeah,
game.
that's what I mean.
That game was one of the best.
Yeah.
There were two arcade games that made the all-time greatest, other than the obvious hits: Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, all that. Cubert. Yes, I said Cubert. Okay, all that. And one of them, and there were two of them were fighting games. Fighting games are very popular, especially rail fighting games in arcades.
yes.
And the two most popular were the Turtles in Time
Yeah.
and the Simpsons fighting game.
It's homemade.
And man, they were cool. They were so fucking cool. I remember there was a Pizza Hut. Do you remember the Pizza Hut
Yeah.
down the road? When that
Yeah.
Pizza Hut was there, they had both the Simpsons fighter machine and the Turtles machine both next to each other. I loved going there for that reason. And the Super Nintendo version. What?
That sucks that
Yeah, I know. The Super Nintendo version, though, of Turtles in Time, I'm surprised that the same people, it was Konami, I think. I'm surprised the same people never made a remake of the Simpsons one, too. But
Triple M is looking over there.
that's
being
known-
jealous of what we're
You want
eating.
food?
yes, Tyler, we'll have some when we're actually done with this. I remember,
You might not even
the
be
Super
able to
Nintendo
have-
version, which you guys got to see in the last video, here I am referencing more videos, was the nicest, was the most faithful arcade recreation of all time, and it is undeniable fact. It was really impressive how they done it. And another opposite spectrum example of that was Killer Instinct, another very famous fighter game in the arcades, because that was a very advanced for its time thing.
Yep.
And
Were there any AO rated arcade games?
probably maybe in Japan, but the question,
Probably in Italy.
maybe, but the question that everyone had was,
In Italy. In Italy, you could show tits on TV.
I'm sure you could.
You can still do it.
Oh,
They show nipples.
No, that was
And the most
blood.
classic retro games.
Yeah, that wasn't.
Anyway, back to retro gaming.
Anyways, I was saying, probably the only retro games that I know of from Japan was probably the isolate shooters that were pretty famous in the arcades.
Oh, yeah.
William Ricky, Happy, Darius first, Darius, not Darius. One. Those. Can't remember the name of that other one. The Apache, Raiden,
Let's see why that took a long time.
and then, anyways, all the games like became actually one of the hardest hotel shooters with arcade back at the time.
Yeah, you know, they did make their mark, the shooters. And they're still around. I mean, that's really the only arcade machines I ever
They
see.
just got HD graphics now in the arcade system.
Yeah, oh yeah, they have. I've seen them. There was a really cool Star Trek machine we had in one of these movie theaters by my house, so that was really cool.
And you get the Star Wars machines.
Yes, that's right. Hold on, let me look at Billy's hat. I want to see if any of these
What
are
are you
arcade games.
doing?
Arcade
No,
games.
there isn't. None of them
Stop
are.
reading my
Earthbound's
button.
arcades.
No, it wasn't. No, Earthbound.
Not even
No.
on there anymore.
Was Pokemon
An
on?
RPG would never be an arcade game because no one would spend that many quarters and stand there for that long.
Hey, you'd be surprised.
Didn't
And
Batman have a few arcade games?
Yes, he did, but they all sucked.
Oh, yeah.
That's gross, guys.
The only arcade games you should have are games that aren't that long, or games where you want to make it your mission to set that high score.
Yeah.
It was all about the high score.
Like the one, like I remember going to one. I don't want to place ourselves, but a certain station of fun.
There's fun stations in other parts of the country, Greg.
Okay.
Like Fun Station.
Well,
Yeah.
there's House of the Dead in there.
Oh, that was the best.
House of the Dead 1 through 5. I think I played 1 through 5. I haven't gone there for House of the Dead 6 if there is one, but
I don't
I
think
beat
so.
every single one because I'm like the ultimate commando.
Their Mortal Kombat machine sucks because there's this big
I know.
blotch in the
I know.
middle of the screen
I
that
know.
I can't see the other enemy. All I do is pick Scorpion and go and high punch, high punch, high punch, high
I know.
punch, high punch. Whee!
I know, and the controls are delayed.
Yeah, they are. All I do is high punch, high punch, high punch, high punch, high punch, high punch, high punch.
I always pick Liu Kang.
Yes,
But
I
they
know.
say, okay, I can't see a thing.
Well, whenever I do that, I always pick Liu Kang. Do you want to know why?
Yeah, it's really annoying. He spams that fucking bicycle kick like it's no tomorrow. Oh, God. And let's let that be the last thing we hear because we are out of time. So.
I beat Abbers.
And we are.
Oh, now he fucking
Now he
chimed in.
speaks.
Now he speaks.
Goodbye, America.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Sorry, it's turning into a cooking show.
This is Med Military
Yes.
Man reporting out.
No, my Grandmaster. This is probably
One at a time, and then you have an hour-long thing.
Bye. Thank you, Steph.